Derek, George, thanks for being on Bicycle Retail Radio. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thanks, Eva.
Yeah, I am thrilled to bring this conversation to light for our listeners. I know we have a diverse listener base from retailers, suppliers, brands, riders, and getting an inside scope about what's happening at Rad Power Bikes. George, your new position. I think there's a lot here. So I hope you don't mind. I got a lot of questions for you guys.
I'm ready, and I'm happy to be back. These are always pretty fun.
Yeah. George, great to have you back. It's been a while. The podcasts we've done in the past have been really, really positively responded to by our listeners. And Derek, I'm just thrilled to get to know you better over the next hour.
Yeah, super excited.
Yeah, so let's dive in. Lots of things happening at Rad. I've seen bicycle retail industry news, some changes in sales distribution. I want to get some tips for retailers, what you're seeing, consumer trends. So I want to start with some general questions. Listeners, Rad Power Bikes, it's website radpowerbikes.com. Highly suggest you visit it if you haven't been to the website in some time. Lots of new things happening. Current state of the industry. We're taping September 2024. We saw post-COVID a huge growth in e-bike sales, bicycle sales in general. What's happening in the market right now, globally and in the US? Any trends that Rad might be able to share with our listeners?
Yeah, happy to jump in with this first one. I think as we look at the overall industry, highest level macro trends, it's the theme is growth. E-bikes are becoming a more significant part of the overall cycling industry. And I'd point to improved battery technology, interest in greener transportation solutions, and really cultural acceptance of e-mobility as helping drive that increased adoption. And as I double click a little bit more into the e-bike industry specifically, there's a couple things happening that are really impacting how suppliers, retailers, and consumers are viewing e-bikes, and it's impacting the market in different ways. So the first one I'd focus on is an emphasis on safety, specifically on batteries. And this is one that I think a lot of the industry is aware of. New York City in particular is kind of the epicenter for it. You see them kind of leading the conversation and adoption around e-bike safety laws. And as you think about New York City, it was a really heavy early adopter of e-bikes, and then during COVID that accelerated, and you see just this unprecedented increase in kind of e-mobility products across the spectrum, as well as specifically e-bikes. And so this is really the first time you're seeing e-bike battery safety come into play at scale. And so that concern around safety is a challenge that the industry as a whole is trying to solve. And at Rad, we've really tried to focus on safety as a key strategic pillar. And you'll see that one of the clearest examples of that is we launched our Safe Shield batteries earlier this year, really as a response to this questions and desire for more safety there. So we've launched our Safe Shield batteries they're not only UL certified, but they go beyond that standard by ensuring that they're protected from thermal runaway using that resin potted material that is kind of unique and early mover in the industry, and we hope that others follow that safety agenda. But our goal is to continue to lead the industry on that, and the industry as a whole can definitely benefit from a commitment to safety on batteries.
Not agree more.
The second thing I'd point to is Section 301. My role on the team at Rad is on finance, so I'm looking at this pretty closely. So Section 301 tariffs have come back into play, and the majority of the U.S. e-bike industry has historically utilized Chinese production for both components as well as in many cases final assembly. And as those exemptions on Section 301 tariffs expired and the cost of bringing in goods from China increased, there's really a couple kind of an immediate factor is in the short term, there's upward pressure on prices. So you see brands all across the spectrum increasing prices as a result and a response of responding to these cost increases. And then I think longer term, you'll see brands shifting away from China and trying to produce those components and then the assembly in other areas of the world. But that takes time. You know, you can't immediately shut down a factory and start up a new one. And so, and even then, the production costs will be higher elsewhere outside of China. There was a reason everyone was producing in China. And so, over the long term, this is definitely something to watch: is how does this impact demand across the spectrum over both the short and the long term? That's something we're definitely keeping our eyes on. And then the third is kind of going back to New York City as an example of this. You see state and local regulations in kind of a patchwork effect. Some cities and states are really going all in on e-bikes. You see e-bike voucher programs in a lot of states and cities where a customer wants to buy an e-bike, the state will actually pitch in essentially to help fund that for them. And you see that in Colorado, California, Salt Lake City, several other cities around the country. But then you have other states and cities that are at the same time, these other cities are enacting those positive tailwinds. You see other cities and states using additional regulations, for example, labeling requirements, limiting top speeds. It's really that patchwork is really tricky to navigate as a supplier, and I assume also for retailers as well, is just trying to keep up with those trends. Really the key takeaway from all of these trends, but specifically that one, is to stay informed on them, advocate where you can for policies that are supportive for cycling industry and e-bikes in particular, and then just be flexible. Things are going to change. We've come through a lot kind of post-COVID. There's a lot we can do as an industry to help support each other on this.
Yeah, thanks, Derek, for that. The three trends that you highlighted are definitely ones that I would note as well. And I really like how you refer to the word patchwork of the state and local regulations. We're watching this unfold as well, and I was wondering from a supplier viewpoint how you're navigating that. So I wish you the best of luck there. It must be super challenging. Such an important category for retailers in the industry at large. We know e-bikes are growing, more riders are finding our sport. What does your data suggest about the future of this important segment? We see what's happening in Europe. What is possible in the States?
Yeah, I always think of over the last couple of years, it has definitely, being in this industry has felt like a roller coaster. And in that short-term view of the last couple of years, it's certainly the data bears that out. Sales, inventory, all of that fluctuation over the last couple of years. But if you take a big step back and take a really long-term view, it's similar to the stock market. Intraday, intra-week movements look really spiky, but the further you zoom out, you see a general upward trend. And that's really what we're focused on at Rad, is there's still a steady growth over the long term that we've seen and we will continue to see. If you think about Rad, we started building e-bikes in 2007, which means we've been in this industry a long time. We've seen a lot of growth over that time. And, it started out really as more of a hobby for tinkerers. But over time, it's become really one of the most popular ways to travel and run errands and do all those fun things outside. We've grown to over 650,000 riders, and that continues to grow every day. And our perspective is e-bikes are here, they aren't going away, and we expect ridership to continue to grow. And so we're just hoping to continue to be a part of that movement.
Derek, since 2007, I'm just thinking back to the e-bikes of 2007. Man, we have come a long way. Technology is absolutely amazing. I'm thinking about increased places that we can take our e-bikes, more brands in the market, just more consumer awareness. But from a brand standpoint, what factors do you think are driving the increase in e-bike ridership?
Yeah, the biggest one for me is you mentioned the growth in what the e-bike offering really is. The way I see it is the better we get at creating e-bikes, the more they can be used as a substitute for car miles.
Mm.
And, early research has shown that 62% of North American e-bike trips replace a journey that otherwise would have been a car trip. And really, that's the use case that I think is helping grow that ridership. Is this is a different product that allows you to be so much more flexible, and it really is a good substitute for a lot of what we do in cars historically. So as you think about how range, battery range, affordability improves, cargo and utility categories are growing, and as cities become more bike friendly, all of those things are tailwinds that are helping drive forward this ridership. And people every day are saying, you know what, I can take my e-bike to go do that. I'll take my daughter on the back to go to soccer practice. We can do this. So it really is that replacement of car mileage that I think is helping fuel that use case.
Derek, over 650,000 riders making bikes since 2007. I'm sure Rad Power Bikes has an idea of some consumer preferences when it comes to e-bike space. Could you share what you're learning from consumers? I mean, what are people interested in?
Yeah, it definitely has shifted over time. So I'll focus on some recent ones. When I think about product specific trends, a lot of people are asking for lightweight bikes, and really being willing to trade off, whether it's range or motor power, to say, I want to be able to haul this, I want to put it on the back of my bike trailer. So lightweight is something that more and more customers are asking for. And you can actually see Rad's response to that. Our most recent product launch was our Rad Kick. It delivers great performance that outkicks its weight, but it is a lighter weight bike. It's 55 pounds with the battery. If you take off the battery, it's under 50 pounds. So that's something that we've seen is really important to consumers. And so we're definitely leaning into that at Rad. As far as other product trends, the cargo and utility segment, that's something I talked about before. We want, customers want to be able to carry a passenger. They want to be able to bring along cargo, add accessories. If it really truly is a car replacement, then you need that capability to bring things and people with you. And at Rad, we have our Rad Wagon kind of family of bikes that's long tail cargo bikes. You can fit 2 kids on the back. You can fit soccer gear and a kid. You can really kind of customize it to what your needs are. You can throw a basket on the front. You can throw a basket on the back. Bags all over the place. That flexibility is really important. And then if you think about, Rad's product portfolio, we have our Rad Runner family. That's really one of our more popular models. That's a little bit shorter tail. You can still carry a passenger, but it's a little bit more mobile and flexible. It's all about that flexibility for whatever use case the customer has in mind. The final kind of product related trend I talk about is color. Customers really, when they buy an e-bike, they want to buy something that's uniquely theirs, and color is a really good way of kind of expressing personality. And we've seen over time that customers want that splash of color. Maybe it's that blue, maybe it's a kind of bright red. You really want to stand out. And so, there's even a safety aspect to that as well. If it's a brighter bike, it's potentially more visible. So color is something that we've leaned into, and on our recent product launches, we've brought more color options than ever before.
Mm-hmm.
So customers are really excited about that. That's something that they love, and it definitely brings some smiles when they walk into the store.
I can definitely relate to that. Yeah.
Maybe one additional thing I will call out, there's less product focus, but more just insight into how the customer is making decisions. And I think this is an important one for later stages of the conversation. We talk about, in marketing, there's kind of this concept of an omni-channel customer journey. Customers exploring things online, but also wanting to see things in person and test ride in person. And we've seen that, especially post-COVID, the customer has become more omni-channel, wanting to research online, test ride, And then, every customer is different. Some customers are comfortable making a purchase completely online. Others want a more hands-on feel. And so we really think it's important to meet the customers where they are. And, whether that's online, in a bike shop, really that's informed how we've built up our retail partnership program, which we're happy to talk a lot more about today.
It's so incredible for me to hear your insight and, from where you sit, your position, your role, getting these ideas of what consumers are looking for and what's important to them. I want to give our listeners a little sense of more about who Derek is. I think it's really important to get to know your background a little bit. So I'm just wondering if you could share a little bit about your background in the industry and what led you to your current role at Rad Power Bikes.
For sure. Yeah, happy to. I'll introduce it with a little bit of a story. My parents are probably the most surprised that I ended up in the cycling industry. And the reason why is I was a late bloomer when it comes to riding a bike. I was the type of person that I wanted to have 2 feet firmly on the ground at all times. And so I was probably 8 years old before I was finally convinced that it was time to even start learning how to ride a bike. And so, one of the things that, think about a classic example of a dad taking someone to an empty parking lot to learn how to ride a bike. That was not really my experience. I had in my head that a plan of how I could get out of learning how to ride a bike. Like I said, I was terrified of this idea. I decided that as soon as my dad let go of those handlebars and I was on my own, I was going to pretend to not have this be on purpose, but to crash into the curb so I could be done riding, so that my dad would say, "Oh, I'm sorry, you can take a break. We'll take this another day." So for some reason, my 8-year-old brain thought this was a good idea. That I was like, I can get out of learning how to ride a bike. It worked great until I actually impacted the curb, landed on my, on my elbows, scraped up my elbows, in tears on the sidewalk. All that to say, my parents are surprised I'm in the cycling industry. I did eventually learn how to ride a bike. I even earned my cycling merit badge in Boy Scouts. But they never would have guessed that I'd be here working in the cycling industry and riding my e-bikes almost every day.
Derek, if your father's listening to this, he's gonna know now about.
I did eventually tell him the truth.
Okay.
But I was an adult by the time he finally found out the truth.
This is getting deep. But now here you are at Rad, right? Like, it's crazy.
Yeah. And my professional journey to Rad, I did not come up through the cycling industry. Really, I came to Rad because I became a fan of the brand first. My story is historically I've worked in large companies in corporate finance. I went back to business school, and it was during business school that COVID hit. So at that time, I moved back to my in-laws' house, and they had 2 Rad e-bikes. And so during that COVID summer, that really became like the highlight of my summer, was riding these e-bikes all over, the foothills of northern Utah. And, I fell in love with the brand. I fell in love with that experience, the freedom that you could get, and the chance to be outside at a time that it was really hard to do that. And so I fell in love with Rad as a brand. And then, a couple of years later, when the job opportunity came up, I jumped at the chance, and I've been super happy. And I've honestly never had more fun at work than I am having right now.
I love how life leads us in those directions. And I like to share a little bit about our guests, their past, like who they are, because I'm really fortunate that I get to work closely with amazing people. And Derek, you and the team at Rad have completely blown me away with how authentic, how willing you are. You guys are like, we want to connect with retailers. We want to highlight Rad Power Bikes. And you guys are amazing to work with. You respond quickly. You just get it. So thanks for being awesome. And yeah, now your dad, well, you had already told him, so we're okay.
Now it's public though. Yeah. No, I've really appreciated getting to know the NBDA over, in my role at Rad, and really excited to partner with, the industry in ways that we haven't done previously. And it's just exciting. It's a fun industry to be in.
I mean, retailers listening, you should be thrilled to pick up the phone and have a conversation with Derek or with George. George, I gotta get you into the podcast here because I feel like it's time.
Okay, let's do it.
Welcome back. Like so much to catch up on. I'm just gonna start with the big kind of sticky question. You recently transitioned from a leadership role at Conti's. You worked at Conti's for some period of time. You made some amazing headway for Conti's. You really had a very impactful position there. What motivated you to join Rad Power Bikes?
Yeah, I mean, it was fun. I was at Conti's for 4 years, after just under 10 years at Specialized, and I've been around bikes since 1998 from a professional perspective and mainly focused on retail. Even at Specialized, it was retail focused. So I really love the team at Conti's, but I wasn't actually looking for a new career choice. A mutual acquaintance of the CFO at Rad Power reached out and suggested that I speak with her about a role that they thought he might be a good fit for, but he recommended that they speak to me about it. So as a retailer who was a service partner for Rad Power and a fulfillment location via Beeline, I had some experience with the bikes and saw the high demand from customers for the brand. And Stephanie explained to me all of the things that Rad is doing to pivot and evolve into a retail supplier after challenges post-COVID. So the retail partner program is effectively our sales program at Rad, and Rad is committed to making it a leading source of business over the next few years. I was really interested in this because the overall goal was a supportive nature focused on retailer health, which if you know me, that's one of the things that I really try and drive, whether I'm working with a retailer or when I was working at Specialized in a kind of consultancy training position, is like how can the bike shops around the country become profitable and be in a position where their solvency is kind of at the forefront of their minds alongside customer service, right? Focus on the customer is really acute, and that's apparent throughout the whole of Rad's structure, is what does the customer want? In talking to Stephanie, I realized that I was quite interested in all of the changes that had happened and all of the solutions that have been put in place to improve the services that are offered to retailers, the margins that are offered, and the desire to grow. So it's a really, really tough decision. But after talking to multiple people on the team at Rad, I realized that I'd really liked the empathic leadership style, and the culture felt right, and the startup feel, the kind of novelty of it all, and the willingness to help out and other co-workers jumping in on things. I got all of that. It was probably the most diligent interview process that I put on myself. So I'll put this out there. On my first day at Rad, it was one of the first times I've started a new job, which I've done 3 times in my life, so not that many times, where on day 1, I felt at home and welcomed by the whole team. And everybody that I've met in the last, what day are we on now? 7 days of working at Rad has been fantastic and very supportive. So the culture and the emphasis on the customer and the desire to grow the retail partner program is really what made me decide to leave retail. Heather, retail's at my heart. Every day people get the opportunity at retail stores to talk to people and engage with them in something that they really love and enjoy. And that's such a unique experience. And that activity ends up benefiting the person from a health standpoint and a mental wellness standpoint, but also the local community. 62% of people doing trips on e-bikes are basically replacing the car. Over the last 3 years, I've been one of those people. I was a period, just a little side story. I got hit by a car 9 weeks ago. I got 6 broken bones and some nerve damage. I'm recovering fine. Driver admitted liability, and we're all good. But up until that point, for this year, there was a period where I didn't touch my car for 6 weeks, and I was just using the e-bike the whole time to go to the grocery store, go to kids' sports activities, commute into DC. Like, it really inspired me to kind of change my perspective on car use and go back to how I kind of lived when I was in London, and that has filtered through to the local community and things that people are doing locally to me, because I've been an advocate for getting people onto e-bikes. So all of that coalesced into me thinking this is the right opportunity.
Yeah, I love what you said. Retail is in your heart. Yes, 100%. And like, we know that about you too. Like that's come across in your past podcasts. George, I've talked to so many retailers. Just today, I was talking to a retailer who said, George Lee is with Rad. I can't wait to see what happens now. I can't, like, there's excitement because everyone knows that retail is in your heart and you truly do care. So couldn't be a better matchup in my opinion. And I'm just so excited to see the future of Rad Power Bikes, how it relates to working with retailers and see that expanded. But then the question that everyone wants to know is, okay, George, Director of Sales, how are you approaching this new challenge? Like what should we expect, I guess? I know it's 7 days in and this is a huge question for you, but what are your thoughts?
Yeah, so far, the challenge is I'm trying to approach with a retailer's mindset. We want to provide a service in the form of a partnership that fundamentally gets what a bike shop needs, which is high quality and innovative products, good margins, clear communication, good customer service, sell-through support in the form of marketing, training, and quick warranty solutions. I'll be helping lead this partnership with other teams at Rad. We're basically building up the team now from the ground up with some excellent people that are already in place. My co-workers in my immediate team, I'm really impressed with.
I am so thrilled to hear you say things like sell-through support in the form of marketing and training and quick warranty solutions. You mentioned clear communication, good margins. I think some of these things are the things that some of our bigger brands are missing when it comes to how they're working with retailers. And I think there's a huge opportunity for brands who get it. I consider you a visionary. I know a bunch of people who have listened to the podcast consider George Lee to be a visionary. I mean, they've listened to our podcast on repetition. It's crazy. It's awesome. It's a competitive e-bike market right now. There's lots of brands out there. So speaking just to the unique ways that you plan to drive the brand success, might you expand on that a little bit?
Sure. I think it's very kind of you to say that. I've never really considered myself a visionary. I look at what others do in other industries and try and connect the dots and see how bike retail can emulate some of those things. And a lot of the time, I just straight up copy people.
Oh.
This opportunity is what attracted me to Rad. It's early days for me. I've only been with Rad for 10 days. So the plan is still forming with the team's support. The bikes are at great price points for value in the e-bike market, and the bikes are affordable, and the high quality will focus on safety and getting better with every model launch or refresh. So the foundation of what we do, which is selling bikes to retailers, that's all there, and it's getting better all the time. The unique approach is really putting the retailer at the center of the sales plan, and from my background, understanding what that means, we can planning to become a brand that all retailers can trust, that we have their best interests at heart. We want to support the retailer growing business. They are the strength in a supplier model. The transaction happens with the retailer and the customer, and that's what we want to try and focus on helping to facilitate. So doing what's right by the retailer is the overall goal. A focus on sell-through, which is something I've been very passionate about in the industry for a long time, will eventually be the main facet of the program at Rad. But we're not ready to share details on that yet.
No, it's early too. I'm hitting you with some hard questions. I want to jump into changes in Rad's sales channels in the recent past. I know that Rad has been undergoing quite a few changes in regard to sales channel distribution. And as you're stating now, really looking to strengthen those retailer relationships. Just an overview of what Rad has been up to in the past, just so we can get, maybe some of our listeners aren't familiar. I don't know if Derek, maybe this is a question for you.
Yeah, I'll jump in with that. I'll lead with a quick story. A couple months ago, I walked into a bike shop, kind of almost with a secret shopper mentality of I want to hear what they say about Rad. You know, and I walked up to the desk and said, you know, was asking about their e-bike assortment. I said, well, you know, a couple friends and family members of mine have Rad e-bikes. You know, what do you think about the brand? And they said, oh yeah, Rad's a direct-to-consumer brand. And this is just as we were kind of getting on the cusp of building out our Rad retail program, which we've talked a little bit about. But really, the way I talk through this journey is Rad Power Bikes was a direct-to-consumer brand. We introduced ourselves as a direct-to-consumer brand. That's what helped us grow. You know, it helped us focus on value, innovation, you know, and high product volume. And it really gave us the ability to reach customers nationwide and really build up that rider base and, you know, and establish a leadership position in the e-bike industry. But then over time, you know, we noticed the importance of test rides and access to service, you know, in the rider decision-making process. You know, before they want to buy a bike, they want to ride it. And they also want to know that once they buy it, they'll have a place to go, you know, if something happens, you know, or if they need a tune-up. So we kind of glean that insight and determine, you know, we need to not just be a direct consumer brand. We need to launch this retail partner program. So we've done that. We're now partnered with hundreds of local bike shops around the US, and those partners are offering our bikes to their customers and meeting those customer needs in new ways that we can't do online only. And so really through that retail partner program, consumers now have the opportunity to experience the Rad grin that we always talk about firsthand, with the support and knowledge of our local bike shop partners. You know, it's meant we need to make changes to our operations to make sure that service parts, warranty support, you know, customer service are all there in ways to support the customer. Now, our customer being retailers as well as the end consumer, making sure that they have that support to carry our brand and also be kind of good advocates for our brand as well. And I would just say you know, it's been a journey to kind of focus even more heavily on this, you know, the retail side. And we really appreciate early partners who believe in our vision and helped us kind of co-develop this program that works for both Rad and our retail partners.
Yeah, I'm really glad to hear you comment on the important role that retailers do play, the importance of test rides, access to service. I want to get a little bit deeper and just learn more about Rad Power Bikes' presence in the US. I'm not even aware of where you're headquartered in the US. Can you give us just a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so we're headquartered in Seattle. That's where all our R&D operations are, and kind of pre-COVID, that was kind of the home base. And I love that we're based in Seattle because that really kind of helps us get a pulse for the US market. A great example of this is our head of product development lives in Seattle. And as we were going through the development of the Wagon 5, the insight was she couldn't get up the hill on these Seattle hills with two kids on the back of her Rad Wagon 4. And so as they were iterating through the development process, that was the key insight that they were using, you know, that was gleaned from being based in Seattle. And as they designed the Wagon 5, they really emphasized torque to make sure that that hill climbing capability could get her as well as all of our customers up any hill in the US, regardless of how many children or what cargo you have. So really being based in the US, it helps us in that way to get kind of those key market insights.
Yeah. I know you're building out your team, the retail partner program. I want to just dive into how you anticipate to interact with retailers to make sure that they're best brand representatives as well. This might be a question for George, I think.
Yeah, my initial thoughts on the plan will be just to provide support and data. Support in the form of account managers, customer service, and technical support and training for mechanics. This whole program is new and we're building the team now. Over the next 6 months, retailers can expect to see this get even better. The retail account managers that we have in place now and the technical support team are very responsive and very knowledgeable. The data side of things is cool too. We're able to provide data to retailers on what people are looking for in their immediate area. With so much D2C business, we've got a lot of insight over what to basically range in the store. For example, we know what products are purchased with which particular models. So if somebody's looking at buying a Radwagon 5, then we'll know, well, you should ideally be stocking these 3 accessories to go with it because these are the 3 most commonly purchased products. So that should help planning for assortment in P&A as well as the bike purchases.
George, you spoke a little bit about how you intend to work with retailers across the country, not only focused on sell-in, but sell-through. Are there any concrete steps or plans you have in order to facilitate this?
Yeah, if you ask our retailers, you will hear that we provide a lot of quick responses and good solutions when needed. And we're 100% committed to serving the needs of our customers. And the retailers that connect with our product will really want to help them understand what we can do to get them to sell the product a lot better. I already mentioned earlier that we're focusing on sell-through for the retail partner program at Rad. So making sure that our retailers have the knowledge, the product, the data, and the marketing assets to be successful with our products is a real main focus. I'm also planning on some retailer support services in the form of roundtables for retailers to share ideas and provide any feedback and insight. From my work at Specialized and running successful retail operations, I have not got the details of all that dialed yet, but if any existing Rad retailers want to reach out to me to talk about those things, I'm more than happy to do so. I love talking about business operations, specifically with bike shops. It's super fun, and a quick conversation can normally result in some really great yields for the retailer.
I mean, just the conversation that we're talking about sell-through. This is not a conversation you hear a lot of brands talk about. So I applaud you for this already. So can't wait to see what happens there. I think there's a lot of importance that needs to be placed on the relationship between the brand, the rider, and the retailer. And I think that helps with sell-through. And we talked about test rides earlier. George, just this might kind of be a duplicate question, but your plan for ensuring that we do have a strong relationship for those 3, because it's not just the retailer's responsibility, it's everyone's responsibility through marketing. So George, just thoughts on that, how we make that connection and the importance of that?
Yeah, our whole success as a wholesale model is 100% dependent on that relationship of the 3, the brand, the retailer, and the rider. We know that marketing will grow to be more focused on campaigns and communications that drive riders to retail, to test ride and buy. And we're going to do all the things that you would expect in terms of communication around new product launches, changes to models, warranty and service updates, and of course, upcoming promotions. Having been a retailer for over 15 years, I know what's valued, and we're working on that as part of our team's culture in the context of Rad's values. Feedback and action is critical. Anyone at Rad will stop and listen to all of our customers, retailers or riders, and figure out how we can incorporate that feedback into our strategy going forwards. So if anybody out there has any ideas, especially on the sell-through side of things, I've got a lot of things swirling around, but if any retailers have any ideas of how we could better support that, I'm very happy to talk about it.
I love that. All right, so I'm still hung up on 2007. I can't believe how fast time flies by. And I'm just thinking, where we are today, 2024, and I'm looking at the future. I think as we continue to grow this category, it's important that as an industry, we make bikes that are safe, reliable, and really priced in a way that they're accessible to everyone. So I'm wondering, as we look to the future for Rad Power Bikes, how do you see the brand evolving, and what are some important things in relation to your mission forward? And maybe Derek, for you.
Yeah, it's a great question, and it's one that I often try to take a step back and think about holistically what we're doing as a brand. Um, and I always come back to, we have a vision statement and a mission statement. I think both of those are really valuable for everyone to understand kind of what we're trying to do at Rad. Our vision is a world where transportation is energy efficient, enjoyable, and accessible to all. And the mission is to offer an unrivaled customer experience with radical electric bikes that are built for everything and priced for everyone. So really, that's kind of our guiding principle, our North Star, if you will, as we think about building this brand. And every initiative that we're launching is really coming back to that: is how do we get more people on bikes experiencing that rad grin, and changing the way that people get around from point A to point B. So as I think about our 2024 product launches that we're really excited about and proud of, expanding into the retail partner program, those are all underlining that commitment to advance that mission throughout the US, and just really continuing that journey that we've been on since 2007, and we're going to continue marching on forward with.
I am definitely on your side, and I'm happy to hear that. And I guess here I want to take a chance and just move over to just some tips for retailers. I'm sure you interact with lots of consumers visiting your site. You interact with lots of retailers who you're already working with. It's a competitive market. Retailers are looking to grow their e-bike sales. Might either of you share any tips, maybe just a couple that retailers could follow if they're looking to increase their e-bike sales that you see being done by other retailers?
Yeah, and having some personal experience kind of executing that over the last 4 years, I'd say it breaks down into 5 key categories. And no order of importance here, but product knowledge, inclusivity, demos, community engagement, and marketing and service. And the first one, product knowledge, you got to know your stuff. This is like 101. I'm telling people what they already know, but I'm going to say it anyway. Like, understand the product intrinsically, understand the features, understand the spec, understand the uses, and understand the compatibility as well with accessories. Always make all of your employees ride all the bikes and test all the functions. Otherwise, you can't speak authentically to it. And if you need any help with Rad product knowledge, just reach out, and we've got tons of resources that we can put your way. The second thing, demos. E-bikes attract new riders more so than regular bikes, and having a welcoming and non-judgmental attitude is critical. New riders are probably secretly intimidated walking into any bike shop, and making sure you break that down for them so that they feel welcomed into the space. Your shop needs to become their kind of go-to place that they're going to recommend to their friends and families. So that inclusivity thing is really important. And then demos are very successful at converting people to e-bike sales. So hosting demos in your shop and combining it with a clinic, like a short, quick 25-minute overview of the different elements of an e-bike. So watts, torque, safety, laws, the different styles of e-bikes, their uses and the features on them, and then going for a short ride with bikes that customers are selecting. That's been incredibly powerful for converting a lot of e-bike sales. One of the managers at Conti's, he connected with a 55 plus community and went to their community center and hosted demo ride a couple of times, and it resulted in like 15 e-bike sales. Like, it's fantastic. So that type of community engagement is really important. If you get the opportunity to go to any farmers markets or back to school days, there's often like a meet the teacher day at school for elementary and middle schools, and the parents are going to that along with some of the kids. So if you can get like a bike bus going on that arrives at the school with free bike checkovers and then e-bike demos, that's something that I've done in the past, and that's also very successful. So just getting out there in the community and making those connections and getting more people on e-bikes, even in a demo capacity, ends up selling more e-bikes, and that helps to improve the local area's focus on safety and infrastructure for pedestrians and cyclists. That's something that's very, in the last 4 years, become very close to my heart and my passion. And then marketing, so make sure your website's updated. Like, show e-bikes on your homepage. If you've got a header at your home, on the top of your website, have e-bikes as one of the options so people know exactly where to go straight away. Some imagery on the landing page with e-bikes as well. Update the metadata and keywords on your website for e-bikes and e-bike service and e-bike test rides. This is super easy stuff to do, but you're going to populate in search results much higher once you get that type of content and those tags onto your website. And then make sure that you're posting content on social media that's about e-bikes, and ensure your staff are trained to get behind that message too, right? There's still some cyclists out there that really don't believe in e-bikes, but that's diminishing rapidly. I think we're over that hurdle as an industry, but making sure your staff are behind that message is really important. And then integrate it all into your email marketing as well. You can work with companies to do trade-ins, like Upway is a fantastic service for trade-ins of e-bikes, and you can even do some cool things like, I know Upway in France tested putting QR codes onto every single e-bike that's serviced in a bike shop, and the QR code just is like value your bike for trade-ins. You snap you as a retailer put the QR code on the top of the top tube. The customer gets their bike back, they scan it, and it takes them to that retailer's website where they have a Upway widget on there, and that drives a lot of trade-ins and upsells for e-bike sales, which is pretty cool. So marketing, there's lots that you can do, and Rad can help you with that. We currently are using Promo Box for marketing assets, so if you need imagery to go on your website or into your emails, we have those. And then finally, make sure your tech team is 100% dialed on how to diagnose and service e-bikes and utilize any vendor training that's available. There's lots of information out there online, but a live webinar session with Q&A is nearly always the most effective way to get the information you need, but then also ask questions of the expert. And that's something that we can set up for Rad Power Bikes as well.
I love that. George, your tips, like, I'm going to have to listen to that 3 times, and I'm sure all of our retailers, because there's so much there, but some great, great tips. All right, so I'm on your website, Rad Power Bikes. I see your store locator. I'm looking at the US, and I'm seeing so much opportunity for retailers to get involved at with Rad. I'm up in the Northeast. I mean, there's lots of opportunity. Come on, retailers in the Northeast. Derek, maybe just give us, like, why should retailers get connected with Rad right now? What are the benefits, and how easy is it to become a Rad? Or I don't know, Derek or George, whoever wants to take it. But yeah, just like, let's speak. Why should every single retailer listening call or email you guys right now?
I'll let George take this one, and I will just say, hearing him speak, you can hear why we're so excited to have him at Rad. We're just really excited for his leadership on this side of the business.
Thanks, Derek. That's nice to hear. Like Rad Power Bikes is one of the first names that people know of in the e-bike market, if you just look at the general population rather than enthusiasts. And we're industry leaders in innovative products that focus on the customer's needs with a number one priority on safety. And we make fun bikes for everybody to boot. If you review our product lineup and compare it to your floored inventory in most retail stores, you'll see a natural fit for our product with your existing range. All of our bikes are UL listed for both the battery and the bike for the newer models, and the Safe Shield technology, which is like a matrix that surrounds the battery cells is the safest type of battery unit on the market at the moment. And that UL certification is, while it's not unique, a lot of cities around the country we talked about earlier having e-bike incentives all require the bikes to be UL listed and at a certain price point when it's a qualified voucher recipient in terms of income tested voucher recipients. So we've got a very unique position to supply bikes that meet all of that criteria with great service and backup. And that's quite rare, actually, if you go and do some research. As a retailer, we struggled when the DC incentive came out and the Atlanta incentive came out, both of the markets in which I help run stores in. And we really scrambled to find bikes that would meet those needs. So that's a good fit. The second thing is customer service. So coming out of COVID, everybody suffered, and Rad was not excluded from this pain. We have recently reinvested heavily to ensure that the 650,000 Rad bike owners in the US are supported, and that support transitions to retailer support as well. The third thing, in addition to our 2-year warranty, we partner closely with our service and retail partners to provide the fastest response times compared to other brands. Currently, we're the quickest on Beeline with 24-hour time to a solution, a response, and then 3 or 4 days to a solution. And we're looking at making that even quicker still. And we're a pioneering brand. Rad has always been known as a company who's bringing innovative products to the market and will continue to provide customers bikes that they want and introduce features that they didn't even know they want or needed, but they can't live without.
I love that when something is a new feature that you're like, oh, I didn't even think about this, but now I love this. All right, so then for our listeners who are retailers, who are interested in becoming a Rad dealer, or just learning more, how do they sign up? Who do they contact? How do they get in touch?
We've tried to make that as easy as possible. So in the footer of the radpowerbikes.com website, you'll see become a dealer, and there you can submit a message to learn more, or you can actually even schedule a meeting with one of our 4 fantastic account managers, and they're quick. It's normally same day availability for those meetings. They're about 45 minutes just to get an overview of the range and then what we're offering as a supplier to retailers. And then if anybody out there knows me and wants to connect with me on a personal level about joining Rad, I'd be more than happy to talk to them. My email is george.lee@radpowerbikes.com.
Excellent. And listeners, we will link in the show notes a direct link to the Become a Rad dealer off the website for you. Derek, George, thank you so much. An hour always goes by so quickly. We could have gone so much deeper, and we'll have to do this again for sure. I appreciate both of you for coming on the podcast and catching us up on where Rad is headed. And for retailers listening, I think it's a great opportunity right now to reach out and get involved. Derek and George, thank you.
Thank you, Heather.
Thanks, Eva. It's always fun. Appreciate the time.